So here we are back again with Behind the Arc Basketball on YouTube, getting you guys ready for some live reactions here to the NCAA Tournament Selection Sunday show, which will be coming up on the screen momentarily about 5 minutes from now or so. So if you guys haven't done so already, hit that like button down below, the subscribe button, as I will not be able to show the TV screen of what's been going on CBS, because if I do so, it's a copyright strike, so I can't do that. So feel free to let me know, though, down below who you like for the tournament or anything else going on. So looking at that number one line here, do we get 3 ACC tournament teams, or what happens? That'll be the question here that the tournament committee will decide. Will Duke be the number one team? That's what we'll find out as well. And will Gonzaga get bumped off that number one seed line and replaced by Michigan State? We'll see here during the Selection Sunday show, which will be happening very, very shortly. So if you haven't done so already, what I usually do is play-by-play the college basketball games, which I'll be doing a ton of those games in the tournament. So that's how you stay in the know here, by liking and subscribing to Behind the Arc Basketball on YouTube. But right now, we're going to see who makes it into the tournament, who doesn't, very, very shortly. Who gets a 1 seed, who gets a 2 seed, and who else gets an at-large for the bubble teams in there. North Carolina State right on the first 4 outline, along with TCU in there as well. Does the tournament committee pick TCU, who has a 7-11 record in the Big 12, or do they pick somebody like North Carolina State with that record of 9-9 in the ACC, but also they have a 22-11 record overall? So we'll see what goes down there. This is my channel. This is Behind the Arc Basketball on YouTube, as I do play-by-play live reactions, but also getting you guys into the know here with this live reaction of Selection Sunday, starting out momentarily. So we had a couple of bid stealers last night in some games. One of them's the Oregon Ducks, riding that hot hand with an 11 seed in the tournament, possibly for Oregon. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see about St. John's too. They started out the season 12-0 for the Red Storm. After that, they just kept on going down and down and down throughout the year, and they were towards the bottom of the Big East when they went into the conference tournament, and then they got blown out in their first game of that Big East tournament. So we'll see if it'll be enough still to put St. John's into the tournament, or we'll see if they will get out of the March Madness tournament. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button as well here. So competing for the number one line at the moment, Duke, Virginia, possibly North Carolina, and it's either between Gonzaga or Michigan State. So the committee will think about that. Otherwise, I'm going to look up, let's see, St. John's. So in ESPN projects them as the last 4 in, along with Arizona State, Temple, St. John's, and TCU. TCU had a 7-11 conference record in the Big 12. Will they make it in over 22-11 North Carolina State, who's out at the moment? Here's about St. John's, who they played in non-conference play. Loyola, Maryland, they beat by 21. Bowling Green, they beat Rutgers. They beat California, who's the worst team in the Pac-12 this season. They beat VCU by 1. Here's the thing. VCU lost in the first round against Rhode Island. That might not help their cause. VCU also on the bubble. I do believe it's enough to get the Rams into the tournament, however, because they do have a pretty good record, except that was not a great loss in their first round game against the URI Rams. Also, St. John's played against Georgia Tech. They beat them by 3. They beat Wagner. They beat Princeton, beat Sacred Heart. They also beat, looks like, St. Francis of Brooklyn. And then it got to conference time, and they lost to Seton Hall by 2. So they started out, St. John's started out the season 12-0. And then after that, their first loss was at Seton Hall to start off conference play. Other than that, their record was 8-10 in the conference. 7-11 is the TCU conference record. I'm going to see about Oklahoma's. I believe Oklahoma is almost as bad as TCU. And Oklahoma lost first round to West Virginia. There they are. So Oklahoma also has a 7-11 conference record in the Big 12. West Virginia beat Oklahoma in their first round game of the Big 12 tournament. West Virginia has a 4-14 record, but here we are. Starting on TV right now, they're discussing who should be in the tournament, who shouldn't. North Carolina State with a 22-11 record, 9-9 in the ACC and ACC play. Will it be enough for them to get in? We'll find out here in the tournament. So here we go. This is the reveal of the NCAA tournament brackets. Number 1 seed in the East, and it goes to the Zion Williamson Duke Blue Devils right there. So they get that number 1 seed in the East region here for Duke. Yeah, Buffalo looks really, really good with C.J. Massenberg leading the way for Buffalo. They only have 3 losses this season. So the overall number 1 seed, the Duke Blue Devils, they'll take on the winner of that first play-in game, North Carolina Central or North Dakota State. So Duke, the number 1 overall seed in the East region in Columbia, South Carolina, will take on the number 1 Duke Blue Devils and against the number 16 play-in game, North Carolina Central, North Dakota State. Duke will take on the winner of this bubble team, the Virginia Commonwealth Rams at an 8 seed. Virginia Commonwealth takes on Central Florida, the 9 seed. So there we have the announcement. Duke as a 1, North Carolina Central and North Dakota State. They'll face the winner of that one. Virginia Commonwealth as an 8, Central Florida as a 9. So VCU against UCF. That's the game. Mississippi State, a 5 seed now in San Jose. They'll take on a 12 seed. So Mississippi State, they got into the 5 line. ESPN projected them in their bracket as a 6 seed, but they got to a 5 seed. They play number 12 seeded Liberty. Liberty with a record of 28-6 overall. So number 5 Mississippi State plays against number 12 seeded Liberty in San Jose, California on Friday. And number 4 seed goes to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech will take on the 13 seed, which we'll find out momentarily. So Virginia Tech isn't really known for their rebounding or so, but they're a really, really good 3-point shooting team. Let's see who they face. The A10 tournament champs, the number 13 St. Louis Billikens. So number 4 seeded Virginia Tech Hokies will take on the number 13 seeded St. Louis Billikens. Let's see the other side of that region. Number 6 Maryland. They lost in their first Big Ten conference tournament game. They'll take on the 11 seed. We've seen a lot of 11-6 upsets. Belmont or Temple will be an 11 seed. So Belmont just will play in a play-in game here in the tournament. So the Belmont Bruins had enough to make it in, and they'll take on Temple in a play-in game. I'm calling Belmont over Temple. I'm calling Belmont over Maryland. Here we go, guys. The runner-up in the Ohio Valley here. So number 6 seed in Maryland will take on the winner of Belmont against Temple, the 11 seed. Here we are again. Thursday, number 3 seeded LSU will take on a 14 seed. Let's see who they reveal. LSU, the 3 seed. TCU, they have not said anything about TCU, but number 3 seeded LSU will take on number 14 seeded Yale. So that's the next game in Jacksonville, Florida on Thursday. Number 7 seeded Louisville. So Louisville gets a 7. They'll play on Thursday. They play against a 10 seed. Let's see who the 10 seed is. And TCU has not been announced yet in the bracket. They'll play against number 10 Minnesota. Minnesota coming off a huge crushing defeat in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament against Michigan. So number 7 Louisville on Thursday, and Des Moines, Iowa will take on number 10 Minnesota. And here we go. The last teams in the East. In Michigan State, they give them a 2 seed. So Michigan State gets a 2 seed as the last team in the East. They'll take on a 15 seed. So it wasn't enough to put Michigan State on the 1 line, I guess. So it's looking more like Gonzaga will get a 1. So number 2 Michigan State will take on a 15 seed. And let's see who that is. So the overall number 1 seed is Duke in the East region. Let's see who Michigan State will take on here when we do get it. The Bradley Braves. So Michigan State will take on the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament champions, the Bradley Braves, who had a miraculous comeback against Northern Iowa to get into the tournament. So Michigan State plays against Bradley in the first round. So that's the bracket there. Duke with the overall #1 seed in the bracket here. They'll play Duke Duke in the next game will play the winner of VCU and UCF, the 8 or the 9. And then we have a bunch of other teams in here. Mississippi State against Liberty. That's one really, really intriguing game right there. Liberty, a 12 seed, playing against #5 seeded Mississippi State. I think Liberty possibly could come away with an upset. 28-6 overall for the record of Liberty. I think possibly they can get an upset over Mississippi State. #4 seeded Virginia Tech plays on Friday against St. Louis, the A10 champs. We look to these other games as #3 seeded LSU takes on Yale. LSU has some problems with their coach as of late. Yale from the Ivy League here might try to come up with an upset. We'll see. And #6 Maryland takes on #11 seeded Belmont or Temple. I think Belmont over here in the Ohio Valley Conference, I think they're stronger than Temple. They can beat them in the playing game and probably even Maryland. So I haven't got who Michigan's gonna play. First, I did get Michigan State though. So Michigan State will take on the Bradley Braves. So that's who they'll play. So they just revealed the first part of the bracket over here. Of course, Duke is the overall #1 seed in the tournament. Or so if you haven't done so already, hit that like button down below, as I'll be doing play-by-play to these college basketball games. So hit that like button down below and the subscribe button as well. So that first half of the bracket already got put out. Michigan State got put as a #2 seed in the bracket, which is really, really surprising here, as I thought that they could be on the 1 line. Possibly it looks like Gonzaga. I don't think that Tennessee. I think that Michigan State should definitely be on the 1 line for this. Gonzaga, what it looks like now, it looks like possibly Gonzaga will be on that 1 line, but we'll see what they come up with. But yeah, Michigan State now has to take on Bradley in their first round game. So Michigan State plays against Bradley. That's a 2-15 matchup. LSU is a 3 seed taking on #14 seeded Yale. Watch out for Yale though, because their record is pretty good. I think they're 23-7 or 22-7. Yep. So Yale with a 22-7 record there. But yeah, Gonzaga's strongest win this season was against the Duke Blue Devils, 89-87, but it was all the way back in non-conference play. And yeah, I don't see Bradley beating Michigan State like Middle Tennessee State did back in 2016. Yeah, Gonzaga did beat Duke at full strength, but here we are. That was back in November, so that was basically more like the Duke team trying to play together, that they were all freshmen. It's very, very hard to assemble a team with all freshmen and come out and play like that, and then they get the #1 overall seed now, because these guys are really, really good on the court. Incredible what they do with 3 top 5 NBA draft picks. Auburn has not been called yet for the tournament. They just went through 1 region so far, so they'll do more regions later on. I know LSU got a 3 seed. They'll take on #14 seeded Yale, but we just did 1/4 of the bracket so far, so Auburn hasn't got called just yet. But yeah, interesting matchup between that 6 and 11 play-in game. The 11 seed, the Belmont Bruins, going up against Temple. They'll take on that #6 seed, Maryland. And the Maryland Terrapins lost in their first round game of the Big Ten tournament. So it'll be an interesting one right there. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well. What I do is play-by-play and live reaction to college basketball games. Thank you all so much for joining me out here on this Selection Sunday. As yeah, Auburn had a really, really good game today. 20 points against Tennessee. As yeah, they just announced most of the bracket here. So we're going to see who comes up next in the NCAA bracket. I'm going to see if there's anything else with the live updates here on who gets in. So they just announced 1/2 of the bracket. Duke's the #1 overall seed right now. And here we go. #1 seed in the South. So we're back to action with the bracket. And that goes to the Virginia Cavaliers as the number 1 seed in the South here. So Virginia, even with the loss against Florida State in their first ACC tournament game, got the number 1 seed. So Virginia, 29-3 overall, gets the number 1 seed in Columbia, South Carolina on Friday. They'll play against the 16 seed. That's Gardner Webb that they'll meet. So number 1 Virginia will meet number 16 seed Gardner Webb in the tournament. The first ever NCAA tournament appearance for Gardner Webb. So Virginia against Gardner Webb, that matchup announced on Friday. Virginia, if they beat Gardner Webb, they'll be playing the winner of the 8 seed here. Let's see who the 8 seed is. Ole Miss. So Ole Miss was on the bubble and they got into the tournament. So Ole Miss lost a couple of those games down towards the end of the season, and they'll play against Oklahoma. So Oklahoma with a 7-11 conference record in the Big 12 just made it in. So number 8 seeded Ole Miss plays against Oklahoma, a 9 seed. Oklahoma made it into the tournament with a 19-13 record. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button down below and the subscribe button as well. Number 5 seed goes to Wisconsin, 23-10 overall for Wisconsin and the Badgers. They'll play against the 12 seed. Let's see who that 12 seed is out in San Jose on Friday. The number 12 Oregon Ducks, baby. 8 games in a row they've won. This team's been on fire as of late. They beat Washington in the Pac-12 tournament final yesterday by 20 points. Watch out for Oregon, guys. Their star player, Bull, got injured in non-conference action early in the year around December, but they finally got their team going. A lot of those Oregon players have experience as well, like Peyton Pritchard, who played in the Final Four 2 years ago with Dylan Brooks. Kansas State gets the number 4 seed. Watch out for them as well. Dean Wade was injured throughout the Big 12 tournament. He should be back for the NCAA tournament. If Dean Wade is back, Kansas State looks like they could be a possible contender for a deep run. But watch out. They're playing against number 13 UC Irvine, who has a record of 30-5. That might be a tough matchup for Kansas State, honestly. Wow, so here we are. Kansas State gets the 4 seed. UC Irvine with a 13 seed, and they'll play on Friday. Now Thursday in Hartford, Connecticut. Let's see who we got here. Number 6 is Villanova, so the defending national champs. The Villanova Wildcats get the 6th seed. Villanova loves to shoot 3-pointers from the outside, led by Phil Booth. He averages about 18 points per game. The defending national champs are back in the tournament as a 6 seed. Let's see who they'll face. An 11 seed in Hartford, Connecticut. They'll play St. Mary's, coming all the way from California to Hartford, Connecticut. So St. Mary's gets the 11 seed. They'll play against number 6 Villanova. Of course, Villanova taking a short drive from their college campus site in Pennsylvania over to Hartford, Connecticut. So around like a 3.5-hour drive to Hartford for that one for Villanova. Let's see who we got here. The 3 seed now. That's the Purdue Boilermakers, who got a 3 seed in Hartford on Thursday. Purdue will be playing a 14 seed. Let's see who's out here that might have a chance to upset Purdue. Purdue's been playing really, really bad on away games and at neutral court sites. They'll be playing against number 14 seeded Old Dominion. Old Dominion with a 26-8 record. They have a better record than Purdue. So they're the number 14 seed. Number 7 seed, the American Athletic Conference champions, the Cincinnati Bearcats, are the 7. They'll play a 10 seed. Wow, so that's kind of low for Cincinnati, even though they won today. They'll play against Iowa, a 10 seed, on Friday. So Cincinnati, the 7. They'll play against Iowa, the 10 seed. That game's on Friday at Columbus, Ohio. And then here we are towards this bottom of the bracket in the South region. We got the 2 seed, the Tennessee Vols. So Tennessee got a 2 seed. And they'll play the 15 seed, as we'll see in just a second. So Michigan State got a 2, Tennessee got a 2, and Duke and Virginia both got 1. So here's Tennessee in the South region as a 2. They'll take on the 15 seed in Columbus, Ohio. They'll face Colgate, the Patriot League champion. So number 2 Tennessee takes on the number 15 seeded Colgate Raiders from the Patriot League. Colgate University out of Hamilton, New York. And that's what we got there for the South region. So a couple more games have been announced. So halfway through the bracket here, number 4 Kansas State playing against number 13 UC Irvine right there. That's a pretty intriguing matchup. Kansas State's a pretty good team on the defensive end of the floor, but UC Irvine, haven't watched much of them, but they have a record of 30-5 overall. They might be a team to watch out for in the tournament. Number 5 Wisconsin plays against number 12 Oregon. Both of these teams played each other, I think, like when I was in high school, I think in either 2013 or 2014, both of those teams played each other in the second round. So here we are in the first round. Number 5 Wisconsin takes on number 12 Oregon. Of course, Oregon looking really, really good as of late. They've won 8 games in a row. Number 3 Purdue takes on number 14 Old Dominion. That's another matchup here. Purdue hasn't played well at all when it comes to away games, and they play in Hartford, Connecticut for this one. They also struggle on neutral courts. They were one and done in the Big Ten tournament. They get number 14 Old Dominion first. Number 6 Villanova, those defending national champs, they take on number 11 St. Mary's. That one will take place at Hartford, Connecticut. Villanova will take on, if Villanova does win, they'll take on the winner of Purdue against Old Dominion if they do get past St. Mary's. So halfway through here, TCU's name has not been announced, same as St. John's. So I'm just going to see whose names have not been announced here in the tournament. TCU and St. John's haven't. Seton Hall's hasn't so far as well. Florida hasn't. Ohio State hasn't either. Arizona State. Temple's did. They were part of the last 4 in on ESPN. They'll play in that play-in game against Belmont as an 11 seed. The winner of that one will take on number 6 Maryland. Maybe upset over there. We'll see. So let's see. We got the East region and the South region already complete. Just to run these down for you guys. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button down below and the subscribe button as well. As this is Behind the Arc Basketball on YouTube, as I'll be doing play-by-play to college basketball games throughout the March Madness Tournament. Possibly 4 games on Thursday, 4 games on Friday, and probably 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. It's all about the dedication and commitment to you guys and the channel, and that's what I love. So right here, we got the announcement of half of the bracket so far. We'll take a look at the East region during this commercial break. The number 1 overall seed is the Duke Blue Devils. They'll take on that winner of NC Central North Dakota State. And Duke, when they do get the W of that one, if they do, they'll play the winner of number 8 VCU against number 9 Central Florida. And then there's number 5 Mississippi State. They'll play against number 12 Liberty. The Liberty trying to go for the upset right there. They have a pretty good record as well. Number 4 Virginia Tech takes on number 13 St. Louis, the A10 tournament champs. And number 6 Maryland takes on the winner of Belmont versus Temple. Here we are. This looks like the East region bracket. I'm thinking it's going to be a Duke against Michigan State game over here in the Elite 8 of this bracket. That's what I'm thinking currently in this bracket. LSU could be there. They do have some of those coaches problems with the coach lately with the whole scandal and everything. But right now, the East region looks like Duke and Michigan State are the 2 teams that's sticking out of that bracket. Let's see about the South region. Virginia's the number 1 seed, but could there be upsets all over the map? Possibly so. The 3 seed is Purdue. They are very vulnerable to an upset as well, I think. They haven't been performing that great on away games. We'll see what the squad can do when they do get to play at a neutral court site in Hartford. Purdue faces Old Dominion. Old Dominion's a number 14 seed. I'm going to get up Old Dominion's schedule here. And let's see who they played in non-conference play. So the Old Dominion Monarchs was in Conference USA. They finished with a 26-8 record. Curious to see who they played in non-conference play, if it was anybody good that they beat. Oh, how about this? So Old Dominion beat Virginia Commonwealth 62-52. VCU is in the tournament as an 8 seed playing number 9 seeded Central Florida. So Old Dominion already beat a tournament team, VCU. They also beat Syracuse at the Carrier Dome, 68-62 this season. So Old Dominion here could possibly be the team to upset Purdue, what I'm thinking at this time. But let's see what else is going on in this bracket as I get it back up again. Ole Miss against Oklahoma. Both of those teams were bubble teams, and they both got in. Oklahoma with a 7-11 conference record. Let's see what. Yeah, I'm surprised what Kansas gets. Either a 3 or a 4 into that tournament, possibly. We'll see. If they had won yesterday, probably a 3 or so. I'm curious to see what Iowa State gets as well. Let's see for this one. Villanova is a 6 seed. There's some big schools in here as well. Wisconsin against Oregon, 5 against 12. But here we go. North Carolina gets a 1 seed. So they just announced this next side of the bracket. Yeah, I'm thinking that too. K-State, when Dean Wade is healthy, I'm thinking K-State could possibly be a threat. I'm sure that they're going to get back their top shooter in college basketball. Top shooter on the floor, K-State, for the tournament. So North Carolina gets a number 1 seed in Columbus in the Midwest region. They'll take on a 16 seed. So UNC playing against the number 16 seed, the Iona Gales from the MAAC. Iona with a record of 17-15. North Carolina should have a breeze. Number 8, Utah State. Utah State with the tournament title in the Mountain West. They get an 8 seed. They'll take on a 9 seed. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button and subscribe button down below as I do college basketball play-by-play and live reaction videos. Number 8 seed in Columbus is Utah State. They'll take on a 9 seed. Let's see who they got for a 9 seed here. The Washington Huskies are a 9 seed. They lost by 20 points in the Pac-12 tournament title game yesterday to Oregon. But they are led by the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, the best shot blocker in all of college basketball, Matisse Thybulle. So curious to see that West Coast matchup, Utah State and Washington. Number 5 goes to the Auburn Tigers, crushing Tennessee today by 20. They got a 5 seed, 26-9 overall. They'll be playing a 12 seed in Salt Lake City, Utah. Auburn looking red hot right now, looking unstoppable, forcing Tennessee into 17 turnovers. They'll play another team with a great record, number 12, New Mexico State, with a 30-4 record from the WAC. So that is going to be one good matchup, 5 against 12. Auburn's a good team. New Mexico State is a pretty good team as well. Kansas gets the 4. Kansas will play on Thursday in Salt Lake. So they are a 4 seed. They'll play against the 13. Let's see who that 13 is. Kansas with that 4 seed. They'll play against the number 13 seed. The Northeastern Huskies, they put them all the way up as a 13 seed in the Colonial Conference. Wow. They have to play all the way at Salt Lake. So one of the teams from my fellow state of Massachusetts and inside Boston got into the tournament. That's the Northeastern Huskies. They have a tough game, though, against Kansas. Number 6 goes to Iowa State. So Iowa State plays basically a few hours away in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So they're in their own region in the Midwest. Iowa State gets the 6th seed, the Big 12 tournament champions. They'll take on number 11 seed Ohio State and the Buckeyes. So it was enough to get in for the tournament for the Buckeyes. That's going to be a good matchup as well. Iowa State won the Big 12 tournament title. They beat Kansas State, though, without Dean Wade in the lineup by 4. They beat Kansas by even more points, and here they are playing a number 11 seed Ohio State, who got Caleb Wesson back, I think, last week. He was out for a few games, and Ohio State was really hurting without him. Number 3 goes to Houston. Watch out for this team, guys. 31-3 overall. Finally, they have a day of rest between their next game, so they should be feeling strong from Friday to Sunday here in the tournaments. Number 3 goes to Houston. This is one of my sleepers here. They'll play number 14 seeded Georgia State. Georgia State was a 14 seed a few years ago. I think it was in 2016, and they upset Baylor, who was a 3 seed in the tournament. So here we are again, Georgia State 14, Houston 3. Number 7 goes to Wofford. Wofford will play on Thursday. We'll see who they get, a major conference team or another mid-major conference team as that 10 line. So the number 7 seeded teams, the Southern Conference champions with an undefeated conference record, the Wofford Terriers. Wofford will play a 10 seed in Jacksonville. So Wofford from South Carolina will also play in their kind of towards their region in Jacksonville, Florida. They'll take on the number 10 Seton Hall Pirates. Watch out for Miles Powell. He had 29 points at halftime against Georgetown earlier this week. Georgetown had 28 points as a team at the half. Miles Powell had 29 points at halftime. So number 10 Seton Hall takes on number 7 Wofford. Number 2 is Kentucky. Kentucky and the Wildcats are a number 2 seed here. They'll take on a 15 seed in the Midwest region. We'll see who that team will be. They'll be in Jacksonville, Florida, the game on Thursday. And they'll take on the 15 seed of Abilene Christian. So I've never seen Abilene Christian in the tournament, and now they get to take on one of the premier basketball programs in all college basketball, the Kentucky Wildcats. So here we are, a brand new university, a couple of years old to Division I. Abilene Christian gets themselves a 15 seed in the tournament to play against 2-seeded Kentucky. So possibly over here, North Carolina against Kentucky in a final, maybe. We'll see over in this Midwest region. But we got some really good matchups in this region. Auburn against New Mexico State, the 5 against 12. Also an 8 and 9 matchup between Utah State and Washington. Kansas against Northeastern, a 4 against 13. Wofford against Seton Hall, 7 against 10. There's so many good matchups in this region. And number 3 seeded Houston against Georgia State. And of course, North Carolina, the 1 seed, playing against Iona, the 16 seed. So North Carolina with that 1 seed in that bracket. So yeah, we got Iona as the 16 seed in the MAAC going up against North Carolina. We got a couple of other teams that haven't had their names called yet. Gonzaga, one of them. Texas Tech, the other. Michigan as well. And let's see these bubble teams that have not got into the tournament yet. Florida has not had their name announced yet. Arizona State hasn't either. St. John's and TCU. North Carolina State, but they took Belmont as a play-in into the tournament. Texas on the bubble. They have not been called yet. Indiana, no, nada. Alabama, Clemson, Lipscomb, and UNC Greensboro. Most of those teams will be heading to the NIT, but they were on the bubble anyway. So we just got the Midwest region. I'll go over that. So let's see here. March Madness region bracket inside that Midwest region. Number 1, North Carolina takes on Iona. I think that will be a breeze. UNC should be definitely winning that one as well. They'll either take on the winner of Utah State and Washington there, the 8 against 9. Auburn as the 5 seed against New Mexico State. That's a really, really good matchup there. New Mexico State with 4 losses on the season, playing an Auburn team that just won the SEC conference title. If you guys haven't done so already, hit the like button down below and the subscribe button, as well as I put out college basketball play-by-play content, and I'll be doing play-by-play live reactions to these college basketball games in the tournament. So stay in the know here with my channel. This is Behind the Arc Basketball on YouTube. Number 3, Houston taking on number 14, Georgia State. As Houston, the runner-up in the American, they could be one of my sleeper teams here. They play Georgia State first, but Georgia State was in the same similar situation a few years ago where they beat Baylor, who was a much higher seed than them. Georgia State also had Kevin Ware on their team for their final season that year where they made the tournament. Kevin Ware was the player for Louisville that got injured, that terrible injury with the ACL in the 2013 tournament game against Duke. Number 4, Kansas plays against number 13, Northeastern. Northeastern, of course, from Boston, Massachusetts, playing against the Kansas team that was projected number 1 in the AP Top 25. So I'm curious to see how Northeastern fares since they play in a very small conference compared to the Jayhawks. Yeah, that injury, the Kevin Ware injury for Louisville back in 2013, that was really, really gruesome. That was really bad. I think on the replay of that injury, there were people that were like passing out on the sideline there from it. Like some of his teammates passed out on the bench because that injury was so bad on the court. Number 7 Wofford plays against number 10 Seton Hall. The Pirates are led by Miles Powell, who averages about 22 points per game. Powell is a really, really good scorer. And also Miles Kale. So it's the Miles and Miles show that they've had the past few weeks for Seton Hall. They play against number 7 Wofford. Curious to see Wofford from the Southern Conference take on a Big East school. But here we go, the final part of the bracket here. The number 1 seed in the West. And that goes down to Gonzaga. So it was enough for Gonzaga to get in. Their 89-87 win against Duke in non-conference play. And Gonzaga was able to get in. So Gonzaga gets a 1 seed. They average the most points per game. They average around 89 points per game. Number 1 right now in Gonzaga. We'll see what happens to them. If the matchups are there could be another team that could definitely beat Gonzaga, I think. Let's see who the 16 is. I don't think it'll be the 16, but it could be the second round. 16 seed is a play-in between Prairie View A&M and Fairleigh Dickinson. That's the 16 seed game right there. So Gonzaga will take on number 16 seeded, the play-in game, Prairie View A&M from the SWAC or Fairleigh Dickinson. Gonzaga here. We're going to see who the 8 seed is. They have the possibility to upset them in the round of 32. I think they might have a chance. Gonzaga has a record of 4-3 against top 50 teams, and there is Syracuse, an 8 seed. Here we go, guys. Syracuse always makes deep runs into the tournament. They play against number 9 seeded Baylor. Baylor is one of those teams that hasn't had great history in the tournament. Baylor is usually a one and done every year. Syracuse is a deep runner team, looking like Syracuse might have the upper hand there. Number 5 is Marquette, led by Marcus Howard, a top 5 scorer in all college basketball. Marquette will be a 5 seed. They'll take on a 12 seed inside Hartford. It'll be Murray State. Oh, man, I've been seeing that matchup for weeks. That's going to be a great matchup. Ja Morant against Marcus Howard. M against M in the first round. Blue and yellow against yellow and blue. That's going to be a great matchup right there. Marquette against Murray State, guys. 5 against 12. Watch out for Murray State in that bracket. We're going to see who else comes out of these seeds right now. But that game's at Hartford, Connecticut on Thursday. Number 4 seed is Florida State. Florida State, the ACC tournament runner-up to Duke. Lost in the title game yesterday by 10. Number 4 State Seminoles will take on a 13 seed in Hartford. Let's see who the 13 seed is. The Vermont Catamounts are the 13 seed, 27-6 overall, and they play in their region in New England. So here we are. Their first opening game is in Hartford, Connecticut, in the west side of the tournament. So 4 Florida State against 13 Vermont. Number 6 goes to Buffalo. Buffalo with a 31-3 record overall. They play in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the Buffalo Bulls, possible sleeper team here led by CJ Massenberg. Buffalo, basically the majority of that team's back from last year's tournament where they upset Arizona. So here they are as a 6 seed this year. Buffalo plays the winner of this one. Looks like St. John's is in. The winner of number 11, Arizona State against St. John's. So St. John's got into the tournament. Arizona State plays in the play-in game for the 2nd year in a row. Last year they lost to Syracuse, I believe, in that play-in game. So number 11, Arizona State goes back into the play-in game here. Texas Tech gets a 3 seed. Texas Tech also lost their first game in the Big 12 tournament against West Virginia. They actually got crushed by West Virginia early on in that game. So number 3 gets handed out to Texas Tech, 26-6 overall. They play against number 14, Northern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky with the Norse as a 14 seed. Here we go again. This is going to be an interesting region. Buffalo might come out of that region, honestly. Number 7 goes to Nevada. Buffalo might be in a weak part of the bracket here. I'm not feeling Nevada either. They're a 7 seed. They play against number 10 Florida. Florida makes it in with a 19-15 record. This bracket, yeah, tons of teams from Kentucky here. Number 2 goes to Michigan. So Michigan gets the number 2 here. And TCU's name was not announced. Number 2, Michigan plays against number 15, Montana. I feel like I've seen that matchup a few years ago in the tournament as well, and I think Michigan played against Montana, and the score was like 70-30 something. I feel like I've seen both of those teams play a few years ago in the tournament. So they play each other again. Michigan against Montana, 2 against 15. Watch out for Vermont playing in Hartford, Connecticut, inside their own New England region. Not that far away from Hartford, from Vermont to Connecticut. They play against number 5 seeded Marquette. Marquette has had a couple of losses down the stretch towards the end of Big East play. So here we are, the America East tournament champs. Just like UMBC did last year, they won the tournament for the American East Conference. And then they beat Virginia. Here we are with Vermont this year. Another one of those teams that could pull off an upset. Michigan against Montana. Both of these teams played last year in the first round. So last year, Michigan played against Montana. Michigan was a 3 seed, beat number 14 seed in Montana 61-47. Here we go again in the first round with those two teams again. So the last 4 in went to Belmont, Temple, Arizona State, and St. John's. Those were the last 4 teams in. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button down below to my video and also hit the subscribe button as well. So the last 4 teams, Belmont got in with a 26-5 record. So they valued overall record here with a committee besides conference record that was pretty bad, like 7-11 Big 12 TCU. So not in the tournament. UNC Greensboro, Alabama, TCU, and Indiana. Yeah, I've kind of seen that coming for ages, as Indiana had a 17-15 record. They had those 2 big wins against Michigan State, but other than that, their record really showed for it. So they're out of the tournament. Too many losses there. Of course, Texas not in the bracket this year with a 16-16 record. So that's how the bracket falls up. TCU gets left out of the bracket in this one. But what a great bracket here with all these matchups. Here's the bids by the conference. Big Ten won the bids. 8 bids by the Big Ten, 7 by the ACC, 7 by the SEC, 6 by the Big 12, 4 for the American Big East, and Pac-12 snuck in 3 in there. Washington, Arizona State, and Oregon got the automatic bid as the Pac-12 tournament final champions. 2 in the Mountain West, as Utah State and Nevada got in. But this year, 7 non-Power 6 conference at-large bids in there. So Gonzaga was in there as the WCC because St. Mary's won. There were 7 non-Power conference bids for an at-large this year that got into the tournament there. The most, I think, in the past few years has been 10 back in 2014. So, wow, what a great region here of college basketball. All 4 of these games. Let me know down in the chat, what's the most intriguing first-round matchup you guys can think of in the chat. Let me know. I'm looking at this one. Number 5 Marquette against number 12 Murray State in the West region. This looks like it could be a really, really good game for both of these teams. Marquette, of course, led by Marcus Howard, the leading scorer. He's a top 5 scorer right now in college basketball for points per game, going up against John Morant, the projected number 2 NBA draft pick for the Murray State Racers. This right here looks like a really, really good game that could go down possibly between those 2 teams. Duke right now, they put them in a pretty easy region over there, taking on the winner of VCU against UCF. Both of those teams lost in their first conference tournament game. So that's the 8 versus 9 matchup. And yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see about that. The Big Ten. has some really good teams coming out of it as well. It's looking like a Duke against Michigan State possibility in there to meet up in the Elite Eight in that region. So inside the East region, possibly number 1 Duke against number 2 Michigan State. Let's see what else we have in the bracket. The South region, Virginia's a 1. This region is so up for grabs. Tennessee lost today by 20 against Auburn. Number 3 Purdue hasn't been performing as well on the road in that neutral court locations. Villanova is a 6 seed. If they can start hitting 3-point shots like they do, they average 33-point shots per game. That's number 1 in the nation for a power conference school. The Villanova Wildcats over here could possibly come out of that region again in the South region. But watch out for Kansas State. They do have to get past UC Irvine. Also a very tough matchup to look out for. Number 12 Oregon against number 5 Wisconsin. That looks like a really, really good matchup. So if you haven't done so already, hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well, as I'll be calling play-by-play of college basketball tournament games when we do have those games on Thursday for the first round. So looking at all those 4 top seeds, Duke with a 1 in their region, Michigan State with a 2, LSU with a 3, Virginia Tech with a 4. That's the East region. Virginia Tech did beat Duke a couple of weeks ago, but that was without Zion in the lineup. Also watch out for, I'm saying Kansas State, because if they get back Dean Wade over here, Kansas State's going to look really, really dangerous as a 4 seed. They could own that region, especially when they're in the same region as Virginia in the South. Kansas State could be a very, very dangerous team come the tournament. Bruce Weber's a really, really good head coach as well. The K-State Wildcats will be coming to play, I hope, for this tournament. And I think in my bracket, I'm going to put them as a far run into this bracket. They're led by one of the top stealers inside the Big 12, Barry Brown Jr. He's a really, really great player. Kansas State, sometimes they're down in some of those games, but they always seem to come back and get the W. That's what I like about them. They never give up. They're one of the teams that I'm really, really looking forward to in this tournament, the K-State Wildcats. Dean Wade, if he comes back, they get one of their top shooters on the court. So a 16 against a 1. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but if it does, most likely it will happen probably to Gonzaga out of all the teams here in the tournament. More because of their non-conference strength of schedule, because those 3 ACC teams, it's just tougher competition. You could say Virginia, but Virginia now has DeAndre Hunter back in the tournament. They didn't have DeAndre Hunter last year, and they lost to UMBC because of that. Now they have their top 3-point shooter, the top 3-point shooting player in the ACC, DeAndre Hunter. So I think Virginia will be at full strength, and they'll finally be able to win a tournament game against Gardner Webb, who's in their first ever March Madness tournament appearance. But yeah, Gonzaga against Syracuse, if that happens, that'll be a 1-8 matchup. That's going to be a matchup to look forward to. Syracuse can come out of that with a W, honestly. I think Syracuse has always made great runs throughout the tournament, no matter what seed they are. They've been like an 11 seed, a 10 seed. They've made it to the Final Four and Elite 8, even when they've had the lower seed. This season, they're an 8 seed. They play against number 9 Baylor. Next, Baylor's been one of those teams that's had trouble in previous tournament games. They lost to Georgia State a few years ago. Look for the Qs to go far in this tournament. Buffalo, I think, as well. Watch out for number 6 Buffalo. Texas Tech just didn't show up against West Virginia. They rely basically on one player, Jarrett Culver. So that's going to be an interesting matchup if Buffalo does play Texas Tech, or if Northern Kentucky can even pull up the upset in that game. Nevada against Florida, interesting matchup there. Not really feeling Nevada myself in the tournament. Florida almost beat Auburn as well. They lost by 3. So Florida is the number 10 seed. They played against way more tougher competition than the Wolfpack. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of college basketball this season. But yeah, I'm excited for this NCAA tournament. So on Thursday, I'll be streaming some games out there. So watch for my channel as I'll be scheduling those games. Once the schedule comes out, I'll be scheduling my videos in there. So once that happens, make sure you guys turn on notifications so you guys know when I'm going live for the tournament, as I'll be doing a good amount of tournament games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mostly, probably 4 games a day I'll do play-by-play of. I'll also be doing going through the scores of the other games that's going on at the moment as well. Probably those games will be on CBS because I only have access to antenna TV over here. I don't have cable right now, but here we are. Great tournament. Hopefully that will go on with these teams. Belmont got in as an at-large seed. TCU did not. Well, if you really want a great bracket, all you basically have to do is Google Zion Williamson, and that's a good start right there. So if you Google Zion Williamson, that's all that you have to do if you really want a good bracket in the tournament. But as well, watch out for some of the teams that I'll preview you guys to watch out for. North Carolina and Duke, possibly those 2 teams could meet up with each other there as well. But there's so many different things into the bracket. It's like a 1 in quintillion chance to get a perfect bracket. It's absolutely crazy. It's insane. So just go with your heart, see who you got, and of course it's one of the big weeks of national television for like the next 3 weeks is the bracket to see if you're alive or not in the bracket. Usually everybody's bracket is garbage after day 1, as we've seen tournament games in the past. There's been so many upsets, like MTSU against Michigan State in 2016. So many upsets. Of course, UMBC against Virginia last year. Buffalo beating Arizona. Of course, Davidson with Steph Curry a decade ago, basically. But yeah, for the bracket, those Thursday games and the Friday games, once you hit around like 4:45 or so, some of the people's brackets are already out of whack because there have been upsets already. I remember they started off last year's tournament with a 10-7 game for the first game of the tournament. Rhode Island was the 7, playing against number 10 seeded Oklahoma. And Oklahoma had Trae Young on their team now. Of course, he's a stellar player in the NBA. But yeah, that was a close game that went into overtime, and Rhode Island won that one, and then they took on Duke and got crushed. But there's so many ways that you could fill out a bracket here. There's so many ways that you can take an approach to most of these teams, as long as you don't pick Abilene Christian over Kentucky. That's the only one that they don't have for you for over here. And of course, try not to pick Iona over North Carolina as well. I think that this is the first tournament appearance for Abilene Christian. So they get number 2 seeded Kentucky. But yeah, all these other teams are up for grabs, I think. Wisconsin against Oregon, that's going to be a really, really good matchup. Cincinnati against Iowa might be an upset with Purdue and Old Dominion. We'll see about that game. Kansas State, California, Irvine. That could be a good matchup as well. VCU, UCF. Those 2 teams could possibly be a good matchup. If Belmont wins as an 11 seed over Temple, which I believe that they will, I think that they have a good chance to beat Maryland. Maryland was a one and done. They lost against Nebraska in their first game, that Big Ten tournament. Maryland also lost to Illinois in non-conference play or in conference play early in the season. I think they also lost to Rutgers as well. So it's going to be interesting here who goes into the tournament, and we'll see as the weeks go by and the games go by. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me on my video. I think that that's it for tonight. Awesome job, guys, in the chat. You guys have been awesome throughout this whole season, and I've started up this channel. And of course, I'll be streaming games into the March Madness Tournament. Most likely 4 games I'll be doing for Thursday and Friday, and then probably 2 for Saturday and Sunday, maybe more. I'll have to see. Dedication and commitment, though. Love college basketball. Great job to share this passion with you guys, and I cannot wait to kick things off here on Thursday in the March Madness Tournament. But yeah, that's basically been it. Selection Sunday. It's done. It's finished. We know the teams in the tournament. TCU has been left out. Texas has been left out. And Belmont got in. Same as St. John's. But thank you guys so much. This has been a presentation of Behind the Arc Basketball on YouTube. Hit that like button before you go. Hit the subscribe button as well. Thank you guys so much and have a nice night, everyone. This has been another presentation of Behind the Arc Basketball on YouTube. Make sure to hit notifications on so you guys know when I go live streaming for the tournament games starting on Thursday. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll be back Thursday for more play-by-play when the tournament gets started. Enjoy the brackets, guys.